In September 1999, I was the new kid at school. My family had moved from our first home and I was starting the year in a new district. This is a common experience that many kids go through, and I was feeling scared, uncomfortable, a fear of what if I don't make friends? I felt out of place. To start the year, I was in Miss Rathgeber's second grade class. It was her first year teaching as well, and maybe she was feeling some similar anxieties. She started the year off by reading to us a few chapters of a book that had been growing in popularity over the past year. It was about a boy, similar age to me, who receives a mysterious letter in the mail and is whisked off to a new school where he is also feeling scared, uncomfortable, having the fear of what if he doesn't make any friends. From this moment of shared experience, Harry became a lifelong companion to me. I obsessively read and reread the story as Harry rose to the occasion, met Ron and Hermione, and saved the school. And although I did not save Hollowell Elementary from a dark wizard that wants to murder me, I did make friends, like Nick, and I also conquered my fears of second grade, of change, being a shy kid, and found my place in my new world. Harry Potter taught me that in life our choices matter far more than our abilities, that genuine friendships are worth their weight in galleons, and doing what's right over what's easy means a heck of a lot. Nick and I were approximately 8 to 9 when this story blew up in the US. We aged almost in sync with Harry, Ron, and Hermione. For me personally, the story is one of the most important things in my life. For better or worse, it instilled in me an addictive nature when it comes to stories that I love. I went to the midnight release for the books and the movies. I discovered podcasts in 2005 when I came across Pottercast and Mugglecast, 2 shows run by Harry Potter news websites that I still listen to, admittedly, this day. It's sometimes hard to fully share with people something that you love. At least it is for me. I get this fear of, what if they judge me for it or they don't like it as much as I do? But Harry Potter was always something that I unabashedly love, and people know that about me. It's almost a defining personality trait. And you know what? People have never once judged me for it, at least to my face. It has given me the confidence to share with people things that I love, and now I'm doing that in an extremely public format on a podcast. This podcast would not exist without Harry Potter. So I hope you enjoy this episode about a story that means a lot to me. And to everyone who has listened to us over these last 25 episodes, thanks for supporting us. And if this is your first time with us, welcome to our common room of sorts. Grab a butterbeer, and I hope you stick around.
That was nice. There's 2 problems. You were the dark wizard we had to save Hollowell from. And I am going to unabashedly judge you to your face right now.
Yeah, I was like, nobody has until today.
Yeah, you should have said that, because now I have to. I'm just going to change all of my views to just be the opposite of yours. You got to just start the podcast, man. Not May, not Hermione, you.
You're a great wizard, Nick. You know that. Welcome to Read, Watch, Play, your bi-weekly Quidditch recap and dive into the stories we love and how they're adapted. This is a story we love, and it has been adapted. This is episode 25, and we are posted up in the Three Broomsticks to record Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone this week. I'm here with Nick Hinkson, who's had a few too many butterbeers and accidentally lit the bartender on fire. My name is Randy Berridge. Here we go.
That's definitely the most violent intro you've had me do, I think.
It was an accident. You didn't intentionally light the bartender.
What am I, Seamus?
Yeah, literally. Pyromaniac Seamus over here. Those
Could you imagine being so bad at magic that every time you try to do anything, it catches on fire?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was also trying to turn water into rum as an 11-year-old on like his first day of school. So Seamus is just wilding out all the time.
That resonated with me.
Yeah. I was like, I like this guy. I like the cut of his jib. This week, covering Harry Potter, Sorcerer's Stone. I imagine this episode will be pretty popular, given the topic. So if this is your first episode with us, we cover the book first, hitting a few discussion points. Then we move into the discussion of the adaptation. We break it down by casting, plot, world building, soundtrack, legacy. Here for the movie discussion. Take a look at the show notes. You can jump ahead to that, but come on, it's Harry Potter. Stick around. We come every other Tuesday. Please consider following the show on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, Nick, where can people follow the show or follow us outside of the feed?
Yeah, first and foremost, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast, YouTube. Check us out there. We're going to hopefully start posting some videos on there, some little shorts maybe. You can follow us on Instagram at Read, Watch, Play Podcast. We post about upcoming shows. We drop some clips. That's where we want to hear from you. You know, we'll drop some questions in our story. So if you like the podcast and you want to be involved, please do. And we would love that. And if you have a negative review, Randy will read it if you email us at readwatchplaypodcast@gmail.com. Please don't put those on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple. You can keep those privately to us, and we will most certainly pretend that we're taking your feedback seriously.
Now,
Notes on
people are.
some spoilers. Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
I was just going to say, people have been sending those in as howlers, like Mrs. Weasley. And about once a week, I've just been getting explosions in my office. People screaming about how much we suck.
We're definitely spoiling. Notes on spoilers. We're definitely spoiling Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It's possible that there are spoilers for future books and movies in here. So if you haven't watched it, the statute of limitations has expired on the time where we're going to care. So just skip it if you don't want to hear it, and proceed with caution.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not aware that Quirrell is living with a literal man on the back of his head, you might maybe go listen to another podcast because we're going to talk about it.
And Darth Vader's Luke's father. So I don't know what to tell you.
Nick, how do we want to kick this off?
Yeah, I mean, did we grow up in the golden age of young adult novels?
I think we had to have. I mean, we absolutely did. And I'm assuming, I have to believe that this was all kicked off by this story we're covering today. I mean, I remember a few other big series. Were you a Magic Treehouse kid? Did you read those? Like, I remember those in the
ton of those.
Big Boxcar Children fan. But the idea of adapting a children's novel into like a massive film franchise was not something that had been really happening. And I don't think even since Star Wars, something had like gripped kind of that younger demographic to where there was like communities being built around it, and there was, different avenues of medium, and people were like making like bands and writing expanded universe novels.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think something like that has happened since Star Wars. And this was a true mania, and it's hard for even us to remember what young adult was like before this, but it went nuts. I mean, do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just think about broader than just Harry Potter. You had this. We grew up with The Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, Twilight. I mean, all of those coming of age stories aged with us. We talked about this on The Hunger Games. We were the same age as Katniss. We were a year and a half, 2 years behind Harry Potter.
Yeah.
In Twilight, they were in high school. I don't remember when that came out, but whatever. It really was the start of the boom of books geared towards adolescence.
I mean, and I think it changed the way we think about intellectual property for better or for worse now. Because in the 90s, I mean, you have to think like comics were not on the up and up. We had the Batman movies that kind of people didn't critically like. And
George Clooney had nipples on his bat suit.
And then there was like a dead zone of comic books. There was no Star Wars being made until Phantom Menace in 99. There was no Lord of the Rings, yet being made. We had the animated movies in like the 80s, but there was not much happening in terms of IP. And this like signaled to, first Warner Brothers, but the movie studios at large, like, oh, we can make a ton of money by exploiting intellectual property because people will show up for these. And I mean, this kicked that off. I was looking at the list you had read off there. I've honestly I've read The Hunger Games. Obviously, we covered that. I've seen The Maze Runner, but I've never read The Maze Runner. I think the weird thing is I actually haven't engaged with that many of these other YA books and movies. And I don't know why.
Oh, really?
I think I was maybe in my HP ivory tower feeling threatened by all these other YA novels coming out.
I mean, I really enjoy The Maze Runner, especially the movies. I thought that's actually where I started with The Maze Runner, was with the movies. And then I went back and read the books. And then we're covering Twilight later this year. So you're going to get to read that one.
Yeah, I know. That'll be interesting. I remember that being a big deal in the Harry Potter community. People are like, what is this new person kind of encroaching on our turf? I don't know if there's a correlation here, but it at least happened in sync where, I mean, I feel like for us growing up, like geek nerd culture, things that were traditionally considered that. It was not as mainstream as it is now. And I don't want to make like the leap that like Harry Potter influenced that or started that. But it definitely, as we got older and it became normal and cool to like enjoy reading, to play video games, to, like fantasy stories. You look at today, I mean, the most popular show of the 2010s was Game of Thrones on HBO. Lord of the Rings swept at the Oscars, when Return of the King came out. I mean, the geek culture and acceptance of those in mainstream media is so different than it was prior to this. And maybe it just all happened in synchronicity because we had the Phantom Menace come out, and then, like we said, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then all of these other ones that it's now more okay to like these things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to that point, the first Lord of the Rings movie and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone came out in the same year.
Yeah.
So, we in the 90s, we got to read the book and then we got Star Wars was coming back, and that was something our parents were into. So they were getting us into it, especially with those trilogies. I mean,
yeah,
those are movies designed for kids, right? And then, throughout the 2000s, it was the remaining 2 Lord of the Rings movies, all of these movies. And then I'm actually not sure about when the other movies came out for the YA books we just discussed, but the books were coming out in the 2000s. So it was just constantly, there's media to consume geared towards us in that fantasy sci-fi genre.
Yeah. Do you think it's faded out a bit? Like, it almost feels like, to me, it had like its MCU boom or its Western boom of like the 50s and 60s, where like, if I think about it, like 2000 to like 2014 was just like YA. You couldn't get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
It was, the books were pervasive, the movies were pervasive. And maybe I'm just older now and I don't see it as much, but if I like look at the, box office or what movies are coming up, I don't see as many of those YA adaptations as I feel like I used to, but that could also just be like confirmation bias that I have internally.
I think that's a little bit more of a result of the way media is changing. And I say that because I know Netflix has a pretty popular one, Shadow and Bone. That's a YA series that has come out much more recent. I think it's still coming out. It's not finished. And I know there's some others. We're also not that audience anymore. Mm-hmm. So when not everything is a blockbuster and it's coming out on different streaming services, you're not always seeing the ads. The books aren't being promoted to us anymore. So what you're going to see is different. I mean, I'm still seeing all sorts of fantasy and sci-fi. It's just geared towards an older audience now that we're almost 33.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they've just started aging up the shows and the novels as we're now older. We were
or
the
at least
generation
that's what's being pitched, like targeted to us.
Yeah, targeted.
Yeah. So when Netflix recommends something, they're not recommending the latest YA adaptation. They're recommending something our age.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Mm-hmm. And it's great. And I think, to your point, that YA boom and people getting into fantasy and sci-fi and it becoming more mainstream and okay and cool has led to some really great content for us as adults. Now that so much of, I mean, Apple TV outside of Ted Lasso is basically sci-fi adaptations, which is awesome because they're killing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good time. And I have amazing memories of those early 2000s, late 90s, at our scholastic fairs. It felt like everybody was picking up Harry Potter and you could buy like the posters at the book fair and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It was just everywhere. I can't remember if you were in my second grade class, but do you remember the first time you read Harry Potter?
Kind of. I remember it started getting popular and then my mom bought me the book and gave it to me and said, okay, try this. Like, people really like it. Just see what you think. And that was pretty cool. And then I have the distinct memory, and I actually don't remember which Harry Potter movie it was, but I remember you and I going to the premiere, and they at that Regal, and we couldn't figure out where the line started, so we just cut right in the middle and just entered, and everyone was pissed at us. But
I think it was Chamber of Secrets.
Chamber of Secrets?
I think our moms took us to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Or your mom took us and my mom picked us up, or vice
Yeah.
versa, or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Chamber of Secrets.
I do remember how mad everyone was that we cut in line, but
Yeah.
I have this thing with lines where I don't like them. I'm not late.
Yeah, you and everyone else. That's why everyone was pissed at you. Did you read the whole series as they came out? I guess maybe to start, even preface that. I gave my diatribe at the start. Obviously, I love this series. How do you feel about the Harry Potter series? Like, what are your memories of it? Did you love it growing up? Do you like it now?
Yeah, I remember liking it a lot because one of the things I really enjoy is reading. But, there gets a time in your life where your friends aren't reading. It's not really seen as cool. You're trying to fit in middle school and high school. And I just kind of wasn't reading. But this was
Yeah.
something that everybody was reading. So it was okay for me to read. So that was really cool. Uh, I, I mean, I think I've seen like 4 of the movies with you when they came out during high school and our other friends.
Yeah.
And those are really good memories. So yeah, I mean, I definitely grew up liking the series a lot. I think reading, though, I was a little bit behind. Like, I wasn't getting the book at midnight. I would be,
Mhm.
wait until I could go to a bookstore in the afternoon
Yeah.
and get the book. So I was
Yeah.
always like a couple weeks behind everybody else.
Yeah. So you weren't one of the lunatics like me.
No, I was just sleepy.
Yeah.
I like my sleep. I couldn't,
Yeah.
I couldn't, I couldn't wait in line at midnight. I'd be sleeping outside.
Yeah. No, I knew how like pervasive this was because I have like distinct memories of, we were on the same baseball team growing up. And I remember when Order of the Phoenix came out, like people were like warming up in the outfield and we were having intense discussions on like where people were at in Order of the Phoenix. And people were like, oh my God, I can't believe, spoiler alert, Sirius Black dies. And we were also like still arguing over like how you pronounce the name Hermione because before the movies came out, everyone was like, is it Hermione? Is it Hermione? Like it's just not as common as it was today, but I vividly remember those things. When was the last time you had read Sorcerer's Stone?
I'm trying to do math in my head. That's the pause. I don't know.
Probably 22 years. Yeah.
Years ago, 22 years ago. I read it when it first came out. I don't think I've read it. So I've definitely seen the movie a few times, but I don't think I've reread it until this. And I didn't even read it. I listened to it.
Yeah.
I was looking for like a new way to consume the media. And like now I love audiobooks. So I did audiobooks.
Yeah. I mean, and the audiobook versions of this are so good, both English and British.
I did the English.
Yeah.
Which we got to talk about the music that they put in that, the weird court jester jingles.
Yeah.
That is like kind of the Harry Potter themed music, but not really. That was a bizarre choice to me and immediately took me out of the world. I was like, what is happening here?
I wonder if it's too, because these were made audiobooks so early. Like obviously like Audible is a big thing and everything gets an audiobook now. But there were like audiobooks of these as it was coming out, and maybe audiobooks have always existed. I have no idea. But I don't think they were as polished as
we couldn't update it.
How audiobooks
all the money
are.
Harry Potter made, they couldn't splurge on some music rights.
Somebody made that and they're like, no, you are not removing my jingle. I'm cashing in on these royalties.
Yeah, why don't we you want to hit some listener comments and then I'll pew you, get you some rapid fires.
Do it.
Cool. First listener comment we got, the Bibliophile 1995. Kept it simple and gave us the A-OK hand sign. Thanks.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was the A-OK or the Italian. Yeah. You can't, if you're just listening, you can't see us as we.
Yeah, we'll put a clip.
You know exactly what we did.
Yeah. Mike Cook, good friend of ours. One of the most nostalgic movies of my childhood. Yeah, I think we agree. We just, I think, said the exact same thing.
Yeah. We have a comment next that is almost saying the exact same thing as Mike.
Brooke wrote in saying, such a nostalgic movie. I also think that you both should wear robes while recording this, and then the laughing emoji face. Brooke, Brandy and I were just talking about before this. I tried to get a magician's costume, but they are really expensive right now because Halloween's coming up. So sorry to disappoint you, but that would have been awesome.
I used to use my high school graduation robe as my like Harry Potter robe. for like movie premieres because it was
works.
perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know where that has gotten off to these days, so I got to dig that up again.
Okay.
Unless for the content, maybe we can go to Universal and do a robe fitting, post it on YouTube.
I mean, we went to Disney World for Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a little upsetting we didn't go to Universal for Harry Potter. That's all I'm saying. If we're covering another Harry Potter, we're going to Universal.
Yeah. We'll leave the door open for it.
Randy's fiance Alyssa wrote in and said, Two Towers is not better. I feel like there's some context you should provide there, Randy.
I'm consistently putting out there into the world that Two Towers is the best Lord of the Rings movie, and she is taking great offense to it.
Ooh. Maybe we should get her to come yell at you when we cover that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Super Dave wrote in and said, what a time to be a kid when this book dropped. I was 10 years old and quickly became obsessed with Harry Potter. I dressed as a wizard for multiple Halloweens.
Same.
And wished with all my heart for a letter to and wished with all my heart for a letter to Hogwarts. I had no idea how much the series would go on to impact my life. I can't wait to listen to this episode. Thank you, Super Dave. Randy agrees.
Yeah.
He's dressed up in his Slytherin scarf right now.
Now. Literally right this minute. How many kids pre-11 years old read this first book and were just like, dear God, I hope I get a letter. My 11th birthday.
I was with Super Dave. Yeah, I was like literally checked the mail on my 11th birthday.
Yeah, or like questioning my parents, like, did you steal my letter? Like, show me the mail. I need the receipts right now.
Greg, call the post. Where is it?
Yeah. Call the postman. When he comes around, I'm asking him.
Yeah. I'm running around on a broomstick at age 11. Just
literally.
My mom's like, can I sleep now?
Yeah.
Can you put that down? You're going to break something.
Yeah, literally. Hit some pew-pews.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. Love when that happens. And that's, it means a lot to us. So thank you for taking the time to do that. Much appreciated.
Yeah. No, love it.
All right. Randy, I'm just going to get this out of the way. I'm not going to say he who must not be named. I'm just going to use his name.
Please.
It's been enough time. We don't have to be afraid of him anymore.
Fear of a name increases fear of the thing itself.
Boom. Is Voldemort like Tony Soprano or Charles Manson?
Tony Soprano. Tony Soprano.
Ooh, wrong. But we'll get into that later.
I will say I don't know that much about Charles Manson outside of headlines. So it's tough for me to go deep on.
Okay. Which year one class would you definitely fail?
Absolutely potions. Like chemistry was a disaster for me in school. Yeah. Snape would have me kicked out of Hogwarts so fast for my Neville-esque potion making ability. What about you?
It's a good question. Probably potions. Just knowing how science classes went when I had any friends in them.
Yeah.
If you put all of us in one science class and then gave us a bunch of liquids where we could do some damage, probably that one.
Yeah. I also could see you falling asleep during every astronomy class at night and failing that because you're asleep at the wheel on that telescope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they're like, somebody get Nick before he falls off the tower.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're going to give me decent weather, a beautiful night sky, and expect me not to be just happy and comfortable and fall asleep to a bunch of stars. Come on.
Little mild breeze up there, maybe.
Yeah.
Wrapped in a sweater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lights out.
That's fair. You know what, to be honest, I'm going to change my answer. I think your answer was better than mine.
Yeah. I had this next question before you go on to the rest of your pew-pews. I mean, the obvious question. I was going to say, what house would Nick Hinkson be sorted in? But I think I'm going to give you your sorting and you tell me if you agree.
Okay.
You're a Gryffindor. Like, no doubt. You're a Gryffindor, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I could have ended up in Slytherin, I think. But
I think you have a pretty strong moral compass as a person. I'll compliment you since I throw you under the bus every single intro. Yeah, I think you're a Gryffindor. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. I would say something, but you're wearing a Slytherin scarf.
Yeah.
So I think.
Yeah.
I can't say anything other than that.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you're kind of a Hufflepuff, but
people would dunk on Hufflepuffs, but they have a ton of fun.
yeah,
They're right
Hufflepuffs.
next to the kitchens. They're loaded with butterbeer in there all the time. Hufflepuff party. I bet it gets
Ain't
wild
no
in there.
party like a Hufflepuff party because a Hufflepuff party don't stop.
Does not.
I always thought it was funny that people would be offended when you'd be like, "Oh, you're a Ravenclaw or a Hufflepuff," because there's no like bad
No drama.
characteristics associated with them.
No drama.
They're good people. They're smart people.
Yeah. Also, the Ravenclaw common room, gorgeous. Would love to be up
Beautiful.
there. Slytherin's, that's the biggest detractor for me of Slytherin is
Oh, it's gross color
I don't-
scheme.
I don't want to be stuck under the lake in a dungeon, pretty much. Like, I need sunlight. That is the only pause I would have when that hat is on my head, where I'd be Harry, like, you know what? Maybe not Slytherin.
Harry was pretty adamant.
He was.
All right,
What's
I'm
your
not
next
going to
one?
give you any context into why I'm asking this question, but Hagrid or Mrs. Weasley?
Mrs. Weasley.
It's fair.
You know what is bad? For some reason, I was just thinking of why you would be asking this when I saw this originally. And I'll be completely honest. I thought you were asking this sexually. And I was like, am I going to have
What?
to choose between Hagrid or Mrs. Weasley?
I was asking who did you like more as the parent figure to Harry?
No, Mrs. Weasley. Hagrid is, I love Hagrid. Hagrid's the fun uncle. You're parenting Hagrid, not vice versa.
Yeah. Hagrid cares a lot and tries really hard.
Yeah.
But I do think it's Mrs. Weasley.
He could have at least told Harry how to get onto the platform. Maybe that is a crucial piece of information, Hagrid. I don't know.
Yeah, considering you like 5 minutes ago learned that Harry didn't even know he was a wizard.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't know about platform 9 3/4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I think the Dursleys are definitely insufferable in the movie.
Mhm.
They're twice as insufferable in the book.
Yeah.
Which Dursley is the most insufferable in the book?
Mr. Dursley. Vernon.
Okay. Now, overall, who's more insufferable? Mr. Dursley or Draco Malfoy? Potter.
Yeah. The way Tom Felton can spit out Potter is just incredible. Like, should have won
Really?
the Oscar as an 11-year-old.
He changed the word Potter forever.
He changed the game. I gotta go Vernon. I got a lot of beef with Vernon.
Fair.
And I'm resisting all context
Yeah, I
for
don't
the
want it.
pew. But Vernon, man, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Okay, so to those questions, I actually would say Voldemort's more like a Charles Manson, like a cult leader who is just convincing these brainwashed people to do unspeakable acts. Because the second Voldemort went away, the whole thing fell apart. And if there's one thing about The Sopranos, it's every time a boss goes away, someone just steps up and it continues. And quite frankly, Tony Soprano is probably more badass than Voldemort, I think.
I think why I went Tony is because Tony has some real mommy and daddy issues. And all of
His
this
mom.
for Voldemort is stemming from mommy and daddy issues, where his mom gave his muggle father a love potion, and this resulted in Voldemort. So I see this parallel to Livia, that's her name, right? Livia Soprano. And just that childhood trauma that Tony experienced that causes him to be the way he is, similar to Voldemort. And again, but I like the cult leader parallel of he's just kind of this crazy guy doing crazy things with people following him who are also kind of crazy and dumb. Like outside of, I don't know Charles Manson's intelligence. I don't know that much about him, but none of subordinates of Voldemort seem that intelligent.
Well, I mean, Malfoy, Snape, They're pretty intelligent people.
True. Yeah, if you can you consider Snape, yeah. Malfoy, yeah, is a decent one. I think Umbridge is a weird one because she's not really an Umbridge follower. She's just a power follower. I'm sure they're smart people. I think I was just thinking of like Crabbe and Goyle, McNair, people like that. Yeah.
It's fair. I was thinking about this
Good
a lot
question.
when I was thinking about what class we would fail.
Yeah.
And I was actually having this conversation with Kevin Tancredi, not about Harry Potter, but just about accents in general, and how I never thought that we had accents growing up, but every time we go home, you hear everybody we know, and they just sound like they're from the Philadelphia area.
Yeah. Starts to slip out.
Yeah, and apparently it happens to me. Michaela says when I go back up there, I immediately fall back into it, and I sound like everybody else, which for better or worse, I don't know.
It is what it is.
I guess.
Is what it is.
Yeah. I'm just imagining like people, like someone from Delco trying to do a spell.
Yeah.
And it would never work.
No.
Never work.
No,
could you imagine it?
My thought immediately when you said this was there'd be so many fights out of frustration at Hogwarts if it was kind of northeastern people from the U.S. I'm thinking like Philly area, New York area. I thought a lot, just a very hot-headed population. And I immediately thought of in the book when they're doing the midnight duel and Harry's like, well, I can't do any magic yet. Like, what happens if I can't do anything to Malfoy? And Ron's like, well, just punch him in the face. Like that would just happen all the time at Hogwarts. When some kid's getting frustrated because he can't say his vowels like a normal human and says water,
Yeah. Let me get some water for the potion.
Yeah. I don't even want to know how Wingardium Leviosa would come out.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Yeah. There'd be a lot of problems. Flitwick would have a big issue.
Dude. Yeah. And they would be much meaner to Hermione when she corrected them. Could you imagine Hermione correcting
You'd have an aneurysm.
Inner city kid?
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Yeah.
Tough stuff.
Shut your mouth. Yeah. You want to get smacked?
Yeah. Those are some good pew-pews.
Yeah.
Book discussion.
Yeah, hit us with some synopsis and background.
Synopsis. If you're not aware of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, this tells the story of a young boy left to be raised by his abusive family, the Dursleys, after his parents die at the hands of dark wizard Voldemort. Harry grows up not knowing the truth about his parents, and that he is a wizard until he receives his letter to attend Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry on his 11th birthday. I don't know why it says 10th. Harry is plucked from his dull life by Rubeus Haggard and introduced to the wizarding world where, much to his surprise, he finds he is famous. Not understanding why he is famous and full of self-doubt, Harry begins his first year at the magical school where he will make friends, enemies, learn magic, and potentially confront Voldemort again, conveniently, as always, at the end of the school year. I miss any big beats?
I like that last part.
Yeah. Background. Nick, I think you're going to be really happy with me with my background on the book and the movie. I am pretty short on both these.
We'll see.
Harry Potter was written by first-time British author J.K. Rowling, originally known as Joanne, but they changed it because they thought boys wouldn't want to read a book by a woman in the 90s. She began writing in 1993. As her marriage was deteriorating due to domestic abuse, her soon-to-be ex-husband threw her out of the house, but not before she returned with the police to retrieve her less than one-year-old daughter, her belongings, and the first 3 chapters of the manuscript for her first novel. In late 1993, she moved in with her sister in Edinburgh, where she penned the story in cafes while her and her daughter got back on their feet. Over the next 2 years, through poverty, depression, and contemplation of suicide, she finished her manuscript and sketched out the 7-book arc of her story. She sent it out and was rejected by 12 publishers in the UK. When the novel was sitting with UK publisher Bloomsbury, the CEO's daughter picked it up and finished the first chapter and asked her dad to read more. Bloomsbury then went on to buy the rights by recommendation of the CEO after seeing his daughter read the book. Rowling received a writer's grant, and as they say, the rest is history. It was released in the UK in 1997. It was purchased by Scholastic for $105,000. She got for this. They made out I can't even just the multiplier on what they made has to be insane. In 1998, and they prepared to really launch this book series in the U.S., which is how by kind of the summer of '99, we were starting to get this. This was becoming really popular in the U.S. Won every single children's book award, sat atop the New York Times bestseller, and would go on to sell 120 million copies, making it the fourth highest selling novel in history, behind Tale of Two Cities, The Little Prince, and The Alchemist. As a series, it is the highest selling book series in history at over 600 million copies, with the next highest being Goosebumps at 400 million. So it's done all right.
Yeah, Goosebumps being the second highest is actually shocking to me.
There's like
I had no idea.
39, or there's just so many.
But still, 400 million copies
is a lot. Yeah, R.L. Stine he's sitting pretty.
He's okay. Yeah.
The lesson learned here is to not use your real first name, to use two initials, and you're going to be in the top 5.
It's that simple.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a famous story. I mean, the crazy stuff with Bloomsbury, their revenue was about I think it was $1.2 million the year before Harry Potter released. By early 2000s, they were bringing in hundreds of $millions a year, like completely transformed this publishing house who just took a shot on this book after it's just insane stuff. It is a wild story. I've talked about how much this book means to me. Growing up, idolized J.K. Rowling. Idolized her. She wrote a story that taught me so many amazing life lessons, and sucks seeing the views that she's kind of come out with recently. I don't agree with it all. Yeah. I don't think you agree with either.
No, absolutely not.
It's just unfortunate. But this is a story that's near and dear to me, and it taught me many amazing things. And I can accept that, while I also accept that I don't agree with how she feels about the trans community.
Yeah. Well said.
Book discussion.
Yeah, let's hit the book. I mean, I know that you're kind of lukewarm on the Harry Potter series in general. Mm-hmm. Kind of liked some, hated some. So what did the Sorcerer's Stone do? Like, what did Harry Potter do well for you? Why do you think this blew up the way it did to be such a global phenomenon?
Yeah, obviously I've not thought about this at all in my life.
Never. Not once.
But it is funny because I was watching the movie and we were reading the book. It's the first time I've done that with more of, I wouldn't say a critical eye, but like I'm locked in and just not reading this for pure comfort. And it's also hard to remember pre-HP times. But I think what this did so well when it was released was that a hallmark of childhood is imagination. And I think she's an expert at creating sort of a sense of wonder and discovery and world building. And she can tap in to the common fantasy trope of what if there's something more to my life? Like, what if I actually am a part of this magical world? Mm-hmm. And I just didn't know it. So common. I mean, we see that with a Luke Skywalker spending his days in Tatooine, dreaming about exploring the galaxy. Frodo Baggins, in the Shire, Jon Snow, even, thinking he's just the bastard child when actually he's secret royalty. And I think the idea of Harry being plucked from his ordinary life, being destined for greater things, is something that just resonated so hard. And then he slips into this world, which I think kids just loved. And the way she presents all the ideas of Hogwarts and Diagon Alley and the magic, and you bring a pet to school and like you sleep in this dormitory. Like, it was just, I think it just worked and hit so hard with kids. Mm-hmm. And the way she can give descriptions and write about that and build that sense of like, this could be possible, that this entire society could be living just behind the curtain, just behind the leaky cauldron. I just can't see it, I think was a masterclass. What about you?
Yeah, I think there's two really good decisions that J.K. Rowling made that made mm-hmm. this really palatable for young kids in a fantasy world. And one of them is using a soft magic system rather than a hard magic system. So a soft magic system being very open-ended and a hard magic system having like clear rules on how things work. Mm-hmm. When you're gearing your audience towards people, I mean, you're writing a book about an 11-year-old, you're gearing your audience towards people, 9 to 13, really, to start. having that soft magic system where there's this open world, this sense of wonder, and an audience that isn't like super dissecting what's happening
Yeah.
like with the magic system, great choice, because then you're just like, whoa, what is happening? What are they going to do next? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
all of it doesn't matter. The other thing I think from a world building perspective, I liked what you said there. She nailed it. A lot of more adult fantasy and sci-fi has all these different locations. No, she focused on, we're going to build Hogwarts for 7 books. And now you have this central place that you're coming back to that's familiar, and you can build these little pieces off of it to grow this magical world that is the Harry Potter universe. I think those were fantastic decisions. I also think the pacing was really good. I mean, it's
So
not a
good.
very long book, really.
Flies.
Yeah.
I need to go
And
back and read it.
I really hate, I mean, you know this. Show me, don't tell me. And I hate throwaway stuff. And I don't think there's anything throwaway. And I think even in the book, they did a good job of showing you the magical world rather than just, I don't know. It's hard to say like telling because you're reading it. But you know what I mean? Like you are immersed in the world rather than just being given a bunch of facts about this magical world. And I think she did that really well. And I think that's what really helped this book be so successful. And the future books too. But I know we're talking about this one.
Classic hallmark of this podcast is a Nick Hinkson show don't tell. But you are so right. Like she's so good at that. Yeah. And I think what works so well for children and then also even adults on a reread is she's so great at dropping clues throughout that make you feel so smart as a kid, where you're reading chapter 1 and you're like, this is not a normal cat. I'm supposed to be wondering who this cat is. Or Harry's having a conversation in Hagrid's hut and Hagrid doesn't meet his eye when he says, why would Snape hate me? And, so you're like, there's something suspicious about this Snape guy and Hagrid's not telling me. Like as an 11-year-old, it's making you feel smart when these things are slowly revealed. And then she pulls the rug on you entirely. And it's not Snape who's she's so great at the puzzle box mystery. But then even as an adult, you reread this and you see so many clues dropped throughout this book of future books. And that it is still rewarding. And like you said, there's almost no throwaway line in this. Everything matters. And she really built upon this, and you can tell had a future vision of where the story was going and what it all meant, which, hats off. I could not have that type of foresight.
Absolutely. I mean, think about chapter 1. You meet almost every single character that is important, whether in person or mentioned by name.
Yeah.
You had, Sirius Black, Dumbledore, McGonagall, Hagrid, Harry, Voldemort. I mean, pretty much, the Dursleys, you pretty much knew, with very few exceptions, all of the key characters. And by the end of chapter 2, you had met Snape, so you had him. I mean, and Malfoy. I mean, you're immediately introduced to everybody you need to know, and then you just build from there.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about with this beginning, what is so interesting and good is, as you read the whole series, being outside of the purview of Harry is very odd. Almost never happens, with very few notable exceptions. I can think of this chapter 1. I can think of the beginning of Half-Blood Prince, where Narcissa Malfoy and Bellatrix go to Snape's house, which is wild at the time, and the other minister coming. I'm trying to think of if there's even a third. I'm blanking on it now. I don't know if there is, but being outside of Harry's perspective is so odd. And it's not weird because in book 1, because we don't know anything else. But going back and rereading this, where you're just following Vernon through his day, and then just like that slow shift from this absolute doldrums life of the Dursleys into this magical world of Dumbledore seeming to just pop onto the street. Like as a kid, it was just like unbelievably magical, of like, whoa, there's something more going on here. And, who is this kid? And oh my God, he's famous. And now he has to grow up for 10 years with this horrible thing. Like, it was just so well done. It's hard to understate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, to that, let's talk about the tropes in this book, because I think young adult specifically has some key tropes that you'll see in everything, and then there's a couple that kind of go in and out.
Yeah.
So some of the ones that they use here in Harry Potter, especially in this first book, dead parents, a corrupt government, which you really don't see until the later kind of books, but
Yeah.
there's a chosen one,
Mhm.
and it's a coming of age story. I mean, hallmarks of
Hallmark. Yeah.
all of the titles we just named. What I think she did really well is she avoided the adults are useless trope. That
Mhm.
happens a lot in YA, where these kids are saving the world and the adults did absolutely nothing to help,
Yeah.
and that the government is, spoiled by a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I liked that this story didn't revolve around a romantic plot.
Mhm.
I mean, you think Twilight being the example there. One thing, though, that I think happens a lot that we didn't get here, being an outsider. Harry was not an outsider. He was part of the Quidditch team. He was accepted by everybody immediately. He's super famous, makes friends immediately. I mean, he was an outsider when he was with the Dursleys, I guess, but I don't
Mhm.
really think that you can say that they used this trope here. So, I mean, with that, I want to turn it over to you. What did you like about that? Was there any I missed that you wanted to cover? Are there any that didn't work for you or worked really well for you?
Yeah. I'll give one for the used and one for the avoided as you kind of laid them out. Or I think on the avoided, I'll just kind of build on what you have because I think those are all spot on. For the used, absolutely all those tropes you mentioned. I mean, the fact that this book starts off with a double murder is like kind of wild as a children's story. What I think is amazing, as I was saying, there's this whole hidden world you don't understand. And you had this chosen one trope and the dead parents. And we talked about how Harry is like a Luke, but the twist that kind of J.K. Rowling innovated on with this is that, yes, Harry does not know his abilities and his true identity, but her twist is that everyone else in this other world knows him and he is worldwide famous.
Yes.
And that was like so unique and so inventive. And I think it added so much to the rest of the story and it made all those subsequent chapters so exciting. Him going to Diagon, like when he's in the leaky cauldron and everyone's shaking his hand, like as a kid, you're like, this is crazy. You're like, he's famous. Like you're feeling just like Harry is.
Yeah.
So smart. It was such a fun, like I didn't know what a trope was when I was 11, but looking back at it, I love it. In the avoided, a sincere one you put here, like the central romantic plot, I think we don't get much romance until book 4 when the kids start getting interested in that stuff. But I think what is so important, and this is like a bit hokey, and I didn't realize this as a kid, but just like the fact that Harry was best friends with both Ron and Hermione, it was like a example as a kid that like, oh, like you can have a platonic friendship, with a girl. Like Harry has one. Like it just really normalized that. We're like, yeah, in the 90s as boys, you're like, yeah, I'm friends with boys and that's it. And it was like a really cool example to see with no romantic undertones, just a pure friendship between Harry and Hermione. And I think that's why by the end of the series, I love that Ron and Hermione were the ones who got married, because I really appreciated that this Harry Hermione dynamic was just totally pure friendship throughout the entire book. So I think that was a great call you had there. And I think the fact that was avoided for so many books, I think was such a smart choice.
Yeah, especially because they're 11 in the first book. Like, that would have been weird to me, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, nobody's having romantic relationships at 11 years old.
Yeah, no.
No, those are good.
Yeah, so, I mean, so is there anything that didn't work about this book for you?
Anything I give here, I mean, if we want to talk about rose-colored glasses, I mean, these are on hard for me with this novel. But I do think that there are like very few serious critiques of this first one, for me at least. Things that didn't work. I don't even know if I would say this is didn't work. But the end of the book feels the most like a children's novel, where there's kind of like, these tests that these kids are going through that, relate to all of their skills that they've learned and showed throughout the book. And, Dumbledore, gives out the points that give them the perfect victory. And that's not a critique I have, but it is very different than the rest of the books, how they go towards the end. So it is funny reading that, but I think it is what brings some of the charm to this story. And it really works, even as we talk about the movie form of just like that happy ending that you get. And it's fun to see all of these characters that we've met over this first book have their moment at the end. But from like if I'm going deep on the plot mechanics, like, doesn't make that much sense. Or I'm like, how are these points dished out to these kids? Like, I need an independent governing body telling me how defeating a troll earns me 5 points, but getting caught out of bed at night loses me 50. Like, McGonagall, what the fuck is going on here with this point system?
And then Dumbledore at the end just throwing out points like it does. It's like, whose line is it anyway? The points don't really matter. It's all made up. It doesn't matter. It's just however they're feeling.
Yeah. But were you absolutely pumped as a kid when Gryffindor at the final minute swept in and got that victory? I'm like, fuck,
I was pumped as a kid. As an adult, I was like, this is fucking stupid. Like, this is so dumb. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean, Dumbledore? Like, come on, let's be real. Like,
yeah. If I was Snape, head of Slytherin, I would have walked out.
Dude, you want to talk about favoritism? Like, that's it right there. Maybe nepotism? I don't even know. Like, I mean, all of the isms is that right there.
Yeah, easy. I mean, McGonagall, just no consistency. 5 points for the troll, but let me break 100-year-old rule and get Harry a broomstick because I want my house to win this year. She's in the bag of big Quidditch over here, and we all know it.
Dude, big Quidditch is worse than FIFA. And can we talk, like, as people who have played sports in our lives, the mechanics of Quidditch make it the dumbest fucking sport to ever be invented for anything ever. You're telling me that there's this entire game going on and none of it matters. Nothing matters unless you catch the snitch.
Yeah.
You're joking, right? Like, oh yeah, every time you score, you get 10 points. But when I catch the snitch, it's 150. You could score 14 times and still lose because the snitch ends to get, like, are you, like, come on. Are we being for real here? Like,
big developments in this space. A new Harry Potter Quidditch game just came out on PlayStation, Xbox, and they got her permission to change the scoring where catching the snitch is worth 30 points and the snitch is released multiple times throughout the game. It doesn't end the game anymore. The game is time capped.
Immediately better.
I was like, solved. This is a great game again.
150 points and ends the game.
Yeah, I know. At the Quidditch World Cup, I'm like, what are you doing? Over here, catching the snitch when catching it is going to lose you the game. It was like, this game, it doesn't make any sense. Do I still love Quidditch? Yes. Does it make any sense? Absolutely not.
It is infuriating.
Yeah.
Like, going back through that, reading it and watching it was infuriating. I was actually angry both times. I was like, this is so dumb. Like, can we not waste my time with this?
Yeah.
That's how you know she wasn't an athlete ever, because if you'd played even intramural sports for 1 year, you know that that's dumb.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm sorry, I'm like not trying to be a jerk about it, but like, I don't know how people read this and don't get angry.
Yeah.
About how, like, it just doesn't make sense.
No, the scoring doesn't make sense at all.
She put so much time and care into everything else and then mess that up so badly. How do you do that? How did nobody? Books don't get published without people reading them, right? Like, editors read them. The author has to do rewrites. How did nobody be like, hey, listen?
I mean, I think what it was is children's literature was not a very seriously taken industry at the time. She wrote this and people probably thought, whatever, just one book. There's not going to be 7 of these in a global mega franchise.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yeah. Then like a couple of years later, they're like, shit, can we amend the Quidditch rules? Should have happened.
I would forgive it if they had done it in book 4 and they're like, oh yeah, changes to the Quidditch rules to make it not dumb. I would have been like, sweet. Yeah, this is awesome. To get me off of this Quidditch rant, what is the most important thing the movie needed to get right in order for this to work for you as an adaptation?
Yeah. First blush, I would immediately think it's got to be the casting. It's got to be the trio and Harry. But I think it's honestly, you got to get the world right. As I was rewatching the movie, it could be so easy for so much of this to come off really hokey and really childish. And it just does not really. Like even things like the Sorting Hat talking, it just works. And like if you don't nail those elements of the world building, and if Hogwarts doesn't feel magical, and if Diagon Alley doesn't feel like this amazing first foray into the Wizarding world, like this movie, I just simply don't think works. So outside of any of the cast, like more than almost any other fantasy story I've read, like you have to get this world right because it's so important to this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add there. That's actually exactly what I had is my answer too.
So important.
Boom.
Shoot.
Hit us with the background on the adaptation and then let's get into the movie.
Yeah. Normally I'd ask you if the plot is any different in the movie, but not a single
I was
different.
literally planning on reading your synopsis for this because the movie's a beat for beat adaptation. It's kind of like Jurassic Park. I mean, it's essentially the exact same as the text.
Yeah. Yeah, they stray very little. Which, spoiler alert, I think really works for a first one. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm trying to think, and like, minor thing is they cut out Dursley's friend at the zoo. Yeah,
Piers isn't there. They don't have the midnight duel with Malfoy where he tricks them into like heading up. And Charlie, Ron's brother, does not come to pick up the dragon. And there's a few things in the forest that are different. And like Snape's potion test is cut out of the movie at the end with the stone.
Fine.
But but mostly beat for beat. Background on the adaptation. Again, I'm going to keep this pretty short. I have zero trivia for this movie because it's just so well known. It's so well known. I'd rather.
You only have 3 bullet points here.
I know. Is that crazy? Proud of me?
I mean, there are 2 pages each, but it's only 3 bullet points.
This was driven by producer David Heyman. He was looking for a children's novel that he think could be a world-class hit as a franchise. And at his behest, WB scooped up the film rights, WB meaning Warner Brothers, I assume people know that, in 1999 for £1 million. They got these movie rights at that time. Unbelievable value. J.K. Rowling, at this time, we talked about IP was not where it was. You know, they didn't know that this was going to be as big as it was going to be. And she was super protective of the story. And she got insane leverage and control over these movies compared to what we see now, you know, where people are kind of signing it away to get a big paycheck because these movies know how much they're going to make on it. That was not where the state of the industry was at then. So she was so involved in this and had complete veto power on nearly everything. And she was not done with the books. So she ceded no control, which was huge. They brought in Chris Columbus, Pennsylvania native.
No, he's Italian, Randy.
Yeah, he actually discovered America.
God, you're such an idiot.
Yeah, another Sopranos comp. In this house, we believe, because Columbus is an Italian-American hero. Chris Columbus, known for The Goonies, Gremlins, Home Alone.
Nice.
This is Doubtfire.
Classics.
Chosen to direct. Stephen Clovis came on as writer, and he would remain for the entire series. Open casting call was put out for the series to find the leads. And anyone who knows these stories knows about the background of them finding Dan, Rupert, and Emma. The one request from JK was that this cast remain entirely British or Irish. She was absolutely hardline on this. These books are so British, and I think that's some of the charm to them that I was kind of glad we didn't get like an American, in Hogwarts or something.
Dude, the pretentiousness of everyone being like Hogwarts is the best. Like there's all these other schools around the countries and they were like, there's no safer place than Hogwarts. There's no better place than Hogwarts.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is such a British thing to be that pretentious about like this.
All the British boarding school stuff and
Oh my God.
I'm glad it remained that. Even as a kid, so many of the foods, I was like, is this a wizard food or is this a British food? I had no idea. I was learning new things all the time. As a kid, I was like black pudding. I was like, oh, this is some wizard thing. No, it's real British food. Movie released November 2001 to pandemonium. Broke the single day record for movie gross on opening day, and then it broke its own record on the second day. Went on to be the highest grossing film of 2001, and at the time was the second highest grossing film of all time after Titanic at the time of release.
Yeah, which is crazy because literally Lord of the Rings came out the same year.
Yeah. It was actually the opening day statistics were beat the next year by the first Spider-Man movie, which is pretty crazy. We just went into like box office craziness during the 2000s. The records were being shattered, but nothing ever topped Titanic. That's all I got on the movie. Keeping it short. So
wow.
Nick.
I'm impressed, Randy. I'm really impressed.
Especially for this one. That's because I just want to talk about all the other stuff so much. How does Nick Hinkson like the movie Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
I thought it was good. Yeah, I don't know. It's done really well. I had all of the things I expect. I mean, it's a beat for beat remake, pretty much. A lot of show don't tell. I thought the visuals were great. I thought the casting was great. I think it's going to be rated very highly. I'm pretty sure you're about to give this a perfect score. So it's at least at a 25 out of 50. We'll see how many zeros I can throw in there.
Yes. Yeah, throw in some Argyle ratings.
Yeah, I don't really, I mean, it's pretty well known. This is just done well. They put the time and effort into making this look good. And we're going to talk about world building some more. We're going to talk about casting some more. I don't really have much to add right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It was incredible. Yeah. They so faithful. I felt like they just made all the right choices, which is so hard to do in an adaptation in terms of like the cast and the costumes and the world. And it's hard. I've never made a movie, but I assume it's pretty hard to make a movie.
I don't think it is. I think we could do it.
Yeah. Screw the podcast. Let's make a movie.
That would be awesome. I would do that in a heartbeat. Not screw the podcast. Let's keep doing that, but let's also make a movie.
Yeah, about podcasting.
Two podcasters find out they're wizards at age 33.
Yeah. But I mean, huge expectations for this coming out. Insanely high. And the fact that it delivered cannot be understated. Like, I don't remember. I mean, we were young and idiots then, and memory is still like fuzzy. But I don't remember anyone seeing this and being like, man, they missed the mark on that Harry Potter movie. Just didn't land. Like they really did it. Do you want to talk about the cast of this movie?
Yeah. I mean, before we break down members of this, there are two notable performers who have passed. One of them being this year, obviously this is recorded in September 2024. So Dame Maggie Smith has recently passed away, which is heartbreaking. She's been fantastic in several things, even outside of Harry Potter. By all accounts, it seems like she was a very wonderful person. So that's pretty tragic. And then we also lost Michael Gambon during filming of the series. So I just wanted to call those out.
Richard Harris actually during filming, first Dumbledore.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. You're right. It was Richard Harris during filming,
but
and then
Michael Gambon passed away a year ago.
I'm sorry. I was getting them confused. Yeah. I got that backwards. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
My apologies.
There's a lot of it. Yeah. Surprisingly, a lot of the adult actors have passed away at this point, which is sad. But yeah, Dame Maggie Smith was, 2 days ago at this point of recording?
Maybe.
She...
2 or 3, yeah.
was going through cancer during the filming. It's easy to give, nice, public sentiments from cast, but even pre-death, all of the young actors said how much her presence on the films meant to them and how kind she was. And she truly was the head of Gryffindor, they said, especially during that reunion they did on HBO.
Yeah.
And McGonagall she is one of those characters where, like, I can't really remember what in my head I had as McGonagall before the movie came out, but she embodied that character and is like one of the most iconic. I leapt from page to screen in the way that is really hard to do sometimes. Like, she is Minerva McGonagall, and her performance as her was just so consistent and steady throughout all of the movies. So she was great.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. I always, in a lighter note on McGonagall, we already talked about her breaking all these rules to get Harry on this Quidditch team. Something's up here with McGonagall. I think she's in the pocket of somebody on the Quidditch side. But the scenes in the book of, like, McGonagall and Wood, like, in cahoots trying to get Gryffindor this cup, of her fighting with Lee Jordan during commentary, badgering Snape about the House Cup. Like, she is so funny in these books with, like, some of the stuff she does, because it's this total twist of, like, the stern British headmistress you think would have zero break or bend in her kind of, like, composure. But the best part about McGonagall is, like, she breaks that composure all the time when it comes to Quidditch. And, like, it just cracks me up every time. Like, she's such a great character and was such a great invention by JK, and then performance by Maggie Smith all these years.
Sports will do that to a person.
Does.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
Such good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We're going to have to talk about the trio.
Yeah.
I don't really want to. I feel like it's a little bit insensitive to just start ripping apart, or I guess we could be praising child performances. So typically when you have a cast that revolves around a lot of young children, it's often the responsibility of the older actors to, dominate their performances to make a film work and to make sure that their performances are enhancing what the children are doing.
Yeah.
I think we had several examples of that in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe almost everybody, I think. Who did this best for you and why?
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree on your kind of assessment of, like, what the adult cast in this did. And I mean, this movie was like the who's of, like, British acting royalty. Like,
Yeah.
felt like every notable, British or Irish actor took some performance or role in this franchise over the years. It was almost like a rite of passage. So we were just treated to so many amazing ones. And I think, there were very few misses throughout the series for me, but in this first one, two come to mind immediately. Alan Rickman as Snape is maybe one of the most iconic castings ever.
Agreed.
So good. And I think it says a lot that Rickman, who's also, passed away at this point, was the only person Rowling confided the end of the series in and told him what the future was for Snape, or why Snape is doing what he's doing and where his true loyalties lied. So that character is so important to these series. And despite the fact that I, as a character, hate Snape and think he is a repulsive person who bullies children needlessly, especially like some of the Neville stuff for me is just, like, really tough. An amazingly written character that Alan Rickman just embodied so well in these movies. And that first potions lesson, you just knew instantly, like, this is Snape. Like, he has got it. And he's inseparable from the book version at this point for me, where he was just so good. What about you?
I think I would agree that he's probably number one. A close second for me was Robbie Coltrane.
So good.
As Hagrid. It was a if not perfect, near perfect performance, not only in this one, but I'm just going to say throughout the series. I
Yeah.
thought the performance that Robbie gave was second to almost none.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's the heart of this first movie to me.
yeah. And he's got this like, you can, the way that Hagrid's character, cares about these kids jumps off the screen
Mm-hmm.
in a way that makes Hagrid as a character feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
The way he did for Harry in the book, I thought that was just portrayed excellently. To your point, like not necessarily a parent figure, but the fun uncle, like somebody who really cares. I don't know. I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fantastic performance.
Yeah. Robbie Coltrane, he's so good in this.
Yeah.
Were there any, I mean, those are like the big ones on the adult side. Are there any underrated, you feel, adult performances in this first one?
John Cleese.
Yes, you're right.
Nearly
so
Headless Nick.
Yeah.
He was so funny. Like every time he was on the screen, like he just was a goofball. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think it's underrated because he's in it so little.
Yeah.
But like the attention to that character who has very few lines, very few scenes. Huge.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, he is the recurring book bit of Ron pissing off Nearly Headless Nick at every welcome feast is like one of my favorite bits in the books, where Ron is always just being Ron and he's like, yo, do that neck thing. Nick's like, I actually don't like to be called that. And two, I'm not just gonna whip my neck off. He's like pretending to eat food by like floating through it, and Ron is like, what's the point? You can't even taste it. And he's like, yeah, I'm well aware that I cannot taste the food. Yeah, John Cleese, that's a good shout. He's really fun. Monty Python fame too.
Yeah.
Another example of kind of royalty. Do you have a favorite of the trio? Has it
Harry.
changed over time?
No, it's always been
Always
Harry.
been Harry?
I've always wanted to be Harry.
Yeah.
I like Ron and Hermione a lot.
Yeah.
Harry, just for being a young child when he did this, he did a surprisingly great job at being like he was a leader even at a young age. And that was impressive. That was really impressive. As I haven't watched the movie in a long time, and I was shocked by how well the child actors did. All of them. Not just them, but you had Harry, was it Harry Melling?
Yeah. Melling,
Melling as Dudley. Fantastically goofy performance. Matthew Lewis as Neville, another fantastically goofy performance. Tom Felton, Potter.
Yeah.
Like changing the way we speak.
Yeah, Tom is so good in these. I mean, I think he's consistently good throughout the series as Malfoy. But you can tell he's a little bit older because I think his just ability is a little bit above some of the others in this movie. He's just so good as Malfoy. Because I feel like you can have the classic bully in a child movie that just, it comes off as like so hokey and like you can't really believe this kid doing this, and it feels like they're doing the performance of a bully. You don't get that with Tom like really feels like he hates Harry. In this movie, he's so good at it.
Yeah.
Is Harry your favorite would you say book and movie? You're a Harry guy?
Of the three?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I like Ron as the comedic relief. I mean, they all have their role, but I think you're just supposed to follow Harry and like Harry, and it worked for me. Hermione's the smart one that helps him along. Ron's the comedic relief. It's the Harry show for me. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Why? What would you thought I would have said? And then after that, I'm going to know what you think.
I always grew up with the feeling that, similar to when you have these stories and people talk about their favorite characters or something like that, people then started to give sub or side characters, it's like, if you play Super Mario, nobody's like, who's your favorite character in Mario Kart? Like nobody, who says Mario? Like not many people.
It's Toad.
Nobody.
Everybody knows it's Toad.
I'm a Wario guy, but Um,
It's the slowest one of them all. That's
yeah, but
doing it wrong.
he gets going. Let me tell you.
Does he?
Yeah, he does. Oh, he does. Um, but I felt like Harry was a little overlooked as a favorite character for many years because people were attracted to, because there's such a good cast of characters in these stories. But as I've gotten older, I like Harry more and more, and I think it's because I'm getting older and I realize how sad his life is and was growing up. My heart like really aches for him at the beginning of this, with like how much trauma he goes through with the Dursleys, not getting, any birthday gifts. And, when he's just like laying in the dirt of the hut, like drawing his birth, like my heart aches for him. I'm like, this boy is just like so traumatized and sad and lonely. And I've grown to like really like Harry over the years, but he wasn't always my favorite. So I like that. I think you're a Harry guy.
I think that's why I'm so drawn to Hagrid and Mrs. Weasley too, is because they immediately recognize that and they're like, this is going to change. And it's just them being good people helping a boy who hasn't even had a chance to do anything wrong yet, who lives in a cupboard under the stairs. I mean, I think that's why I really like them as characters, is because of that empathy and that immediate righting of a wrong, really.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Mrs. Weasley, we don't
Another
get
great performance.
A ton of her in this first one, but that immediately, that protective quality she brings and not wanting Ginny to, point out Harry, and Mrs. Weasley is just the best. The
she
scene
immediately popped.
Yeah, in like later books when she like gives Harry like the watch for his birthday because he knows he's not going to get any gifts, and it's like her dead brother's watch, like so sentimental. Like,
dude, even this first one, she sewed him a admittedly ugly, but it's the effort that counts, because he got the same thing that she would give all her children, and that's what's important there.
Yeah, and the fact that like Ron is like writing home to her saying, hey, I don't think Harry's going to get any presents for Christmas.
Yeah.
That is the stuff that, especially later movies, starts to bother me with the adaptation, is like Ron just being the bumbling idiot when he's actually like a really good friend who has serious flaws with how he treats like Hermione in this one. But he's so much more than just like the person to poke fun at. And I think they miss it, because like that stuff is so important to me, of like being like, hey mom, Harry's not going to get any gifts for Christmas. Could you knit him a sweater or something?
Yeah.
So good.
There's an empathy to all of the Weasleys that I think is underappreciated when you talk about the characters in Harry Potter. All of them.
Yeah. Amazing family. So good.
Even the twins, Fred and George, who are objectively menaces,
but so
are
funny.
Still and like empathetic towards other people. They just like their shenanigans aren't ill-intended.
No, there's no malice. Even when they're whipping snowballs at Quirrell's head, which turns out to be Voldemort's face in the books,
which makes it better.
It cracks me up every time. Like the fact that Voldemort is literally just walking around getting pelted in the face with snowballs. It's like really funny.
They knew.
They know. They always knew. Love that. Casting for me, I mean, this is a 5 out of 5. I mean, they nailed it on the child front. They nailed it on the adult front. And I think you are so right that I think this started this mindset of like having these really strong adult actors to not only be good presences on screen, but seemingly amazing parental figures off screen for all these child actors. Like, they just killed it here.
Yeah. Underrated performance, Fiona Shaw.
This scene when
Dudley.
when Dudley gets trapped in the snake, and like him and his mom are like doing like the mime, and she's like screaming. So funny.
hysterical.
It's Harry Melling, maybe unironically the best child actor in this movie. Like, he cracks me up. So good.
I also thought Fiona killed it with that monologue about when Lily got accepted to Hogwarts, and she really showed like her feeling of being dismissed as a child and why she's so bitter. And
yeah, I mean, that's the setup payoff that JK does so well in these, is something like that. I mean, I love every bit where you have Petunia expanding a little bit more of like what is actually she's feeling about this and about Harry, which is so much more deep than Vernon, who is just kind of pure hatred or fear. It was like she had bottled that up for 10 years while Harry has been there. And then in that hut, it's all coming out. And the way Fiona does that it's so good. Such a great scene. What'd you get casting?
I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
I was going to give it a 2 out of 5 just to see your face when I said that. I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5.
You're doing this to spite me.
I know you're giving it a perfect score. I can't let this be perfect. I got to knock it somewhere. We're going to have a first time winner today. There's nobody on my list and I didn't put the list on there because I didn't want you to see it, but there's nobody on this list that has won an award with us previously.
Cool.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
Your nominees for best casting are, drumroll please, Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter, Alan Rickman, Professor Snape, Robbie Coltrane as Hagrid, Maggie Smith, McGonagall, we talked about her extensively, and the last one I want to throw on there, Richard Harris as Dumbledore.
Dumbledore is really perfect in the embodiment of early book Dumbledore, like that twinkly eye, grandfatherly wizard. So good. But to me, this is the Rubius Hagrid show in movie 1, and he's the heartbeat. So I'm going to give it to Robbie Coltrane.
Robbie Coltrane. Text us your address. We'll send you the award.
What would you have gone?
I was between Alan Rickman and Robbie.
Yeah, same.
To me, they're kind of tied. If you had said that, I would have given it to both. Also, if you had said Maggie Smith, I would have been like, yeah, that's true. I think those three were the embodiment of this first movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't begrudge anyone for any of the picks of the nominees you gave. They were all so good. I think if we were talking series, I'd maybe go Alan Rickman. But for this first one...
Yeah, if you have to limit it to the first. Yeah.
If you have to limit it to the first, Snape is not... I think he doesn't have the screen time that Rubius does. So that's kind of why I went there for this one.
That's fair. Again, really anyone you had picked, I would have, and made it any sort of defense for, I would have been like, yeah, sure.
For plot,
dude, this is like a 1 out of 5 for me.
Yeah. I think we can cut to the chase and have a deeper discussion on some specific scenes. And because I'm at a high level faithfulness to the story or source material. I mean, we said this is a 1-to-1 adaptation.
Yeah.
As near as faithful as you can be. If you love the book, you're probably going to feel they executed the plot beat for beat in the movie. I mean, do you agree with that? At a high level.
I will concede. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I agree.
So I have a few deeper questions. Knowing where the story goes, how do you think they did laying the major plot points in this first movie? Do you think they did a good job of that? Was there any they missed the mark on?
No, I think the few things they omitted did not further the plot. They were nice touches.
Yeah.
And great for a book.
Yeah.
They don't further the plot. And I think when you go to movie form, removing some of those things does not fundamentally change anything. Like not having the Dursley take a friend to the zoo doesn't change a...
Yeah.
In the book, it would have changed everything because they were going more in depth. In the movie, when you have to consolidate that relationship, focus on the people that are important. Love that. I'm cherry picking that example, but it's a good one. As far as major plot points, no, they didn't miss. They hit all the big ones. And I think they did it well, especially, again, you have to remember, this first book was very geared towards a much younger audience, and the movie was too. So
Yeah.
you have to look at it through that lens to evaluate it fairly.
Yeah, I agree in the fact that the central mystery of book one, which, because it's book one, is the central mystery of the entire series, is why did Voldemort want to kill Harry? And why couldn't he? I mean, that's what is kicking off this entire story. And I think you come away with this first movie truly understanding those are the questions you're supposed to be asking yourself. And those are the first questions Harry is asking of Hagrid sitting in the leaky cauldron. They do a great job of that. My only nitpick, I would say, in terms of like things that I feel they don't set up here that are not important to the plot, but are important to the character of Harry Potter, which is I don't think in the movies they do a great job of showing kind of the volatility of the school's feelings towards Harry. And this is important for one reason to me.
What do you mean by that? Sorry, before you get into it, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. In the book, when Harry arrives at Hogwarts, and they show this in the movie too, everyone is like whispering when he walks into the Great Hall and when he gets called up to the Sorting Hat, and he's famous. He's obviously famous. In the book, when they lose all those points, when they're out of bed at night, everyone hates Harry the next day. No one will speak to him from Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff. And this is a small thing in this book, but we see this a lot in future books. Goblet of Fire, when Harry gets chosen, the school hates him and feel he's encroaching on Cedric. And I think this is important because Harry's ability to, as Dumbledore says, make choices over our abilities and do things that he knows could make him unpopular or follow his heart to do what's right instead of what's popular is very integral to his character. And that they don't really show in this one that like the school kind of gets extremely upset with him and him, Ron, and Hermione are kind of shunned towards the end, which is minor from a plot standpoint, but from a Harry standpoint of having kind of the courage to continue along doing what he believes is right, even if people are going to be upset with him or he's blind to like how upset people are going to be with him, I think is a big piece of his character and of kind of like his moral fiber. This is, like I said, pure kind of like a nitpick level, but I don't think that they get that dynamic right throughout the whole film series.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't thought about that. It's a great take. I can absolutely see what you're saying, and when you explain it like that, it makes perfect sense. But I hadn't considered that before, to be honest. So I have to agree, but I don't have anything to add. Yeah.
But like you said, I agree that in terms of like the big plot points, they did a good job. And you also have to remember this movie came out at the time of the first 4 books were released. So there were still 3 more to come. So all the stuff with Dumbledore, they didn't really know yet where the Dumbledore character was going towards the end of the series. So I think overall they did a great job. My next question for you, what do you think is the big theme of this first movie or book? And do you think that came across? Like, if you think, what is this story about? Like, did they deliver on that in the movie?
Yeah, I think some of the big themes that, I mean, we've talked about some of them. There's having empathy, doing the right thing. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I don't think that the movie missed on any of the themes throughout the book. I'm trying to think I'm trying to think of an example where they might have missed the theme. I mean,
yeah, I don't think they did.
Friendship,
yeah,
good and evil, choices and consequences. They hit it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I mean, the one we talked about already just happened to my pen. We talked about like, the discovery, the world building, like the sense of wonder. Nailed it. I think the big thing for Harry Potter too is like the theme of like found family. And
yep, that's a good one.
Where McGonagall says, your house will be like your family. And Harry says, at the beginning of the book, I've been here for 2 weeks and I feel like Hogwarts is my home. He has that line to Hermione at the end of the movie as well. I think that's a big theme, that even if you don't have a family or there's some friction within there, that you can find new family. And I think they do a real good job of making Hogwarts, as you said at the beginning, instead of going broad on world building, she went super deep on Hogwarts and making that feel like the home, the central base to this story. And I think they did a good job of that.
That reminds me of everybody's favorite misused quote. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
What is that from?
That's just like I don't know, is it a proverb? I'm trying to Google what a proverb is because I'm pretty sure that I'm correct. Short, pithy saying used in general, stating truth. Yeah, it's a proverb.
Yeah.
But people, when people always go like blood is thicker than water, they're misusing that quote.
Okay.
It's the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
Gotcha.
Meaning like found family can mean more than, in this sense, found family can be much more than your blood family, which is literally what this is. But you always hear people go, blood is thicker than water, when they have just blind loyalty to their family no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it now. Totally makes sense. The other one I had was Harry's normalcy. In these stories, when there's a chosen one, when there's someone with amazing abilities, they are like a Paul Atreides. He's almost like more powerful and advanced in so many areas compared to other people in the Dune world. Where Harry is like a very mediocre wizard who just happens to have a protective charm on him from his mom that prevents him from Voldemort. He doesn't defeat Voldemort as a baby because he's an amazing wizard. There were like other factors at play. Harry's like doesn't really care about school. Him and Ron never want to do their homework. He's like okay at magic. He's good at defense against the dark arts, but he kind of sucks at potions. So I think like Harry just being a truly normal kid and not an amazing wizard is a hallmark of this franchise. I think they did a good job of that here too.
Yeah. I
feel like
I
you
have
got a
problems with like I just feel like one of two things needs to be true.
Yeah.
Voldemort is a better wizard than Harry, at least at the beginning of this.
Always.
The dude's 11, right? Like,
yeah.
He's the scariest wizard of all time, thwarted by an infant. And then an 11-year-old. And I'm just like, bruh. Or the other thing that could be true is Voldemort's not a good wizard. He's just such a bad person and willing to do such like unspeakable evil that it's scary because there's no controlling it.
Yeah.
And I don't know which one I feel like maybe they can both be true in the first book, but like even towards the end, like when Voldemort's back, I'm just like, are you better than an 18-year-old or not? And the answer is no. So I'm like, I think you're just really evil. I think it's the second one for me, is that like he's just so willing to do unspeakable acts that people are scared. And it's not that he's just this amazing wizard.
Yeah.
But then he took down all these big wizards in the beginning. They talk about how he was taking down everyone who went against him. And I'm like, well, were they not good wizards either? Like, are Harry's parents just like mediocre? Like, are they mid? Like, wizards? Like, what is happening? Like, the whole power level of Voldemort is so confusing for me. And
I think
whatever.
This is a great point, because I think that this is what the movies completely mess up by the end, are these power dynamics and why Voldemort has the classic trope we already talked about. Or we didn't talk about this trope, but he is his own downfall. It is not because Harry's an amazing wizard or anyone around him is better than Voldemort. It's Voldemort's own doing that unravels him. It's him following this prophecy out of fear and necessitating his own downfall and succumbing to forces that were kind of outside of his control with Harry's mom. casting a protective sort of spell over Harry before she died. Not that Harry's a good wizard at all. But you're right. I mean, like on the surface, it does come across, especially in the movies, that Voldemort's supposed to be an amazing wizard and he struggles to take over a school. But I think the truth is he actually already took over the school. He already took over the ministry and every other sort of high standing area in the wizarding world. It's just that Harry went back to Hogwarts to kill a Horcrux. So that's why the battle took place there. He had already taken over the school. But I don't think they do a good job in later movies of explaining why Harry can beat Voldemort that you get in the book, because it just feels like Harry's a better wizard than Voldemort, which is not. Like, if they didn't have the wand cores and if Harry didn't have sort of his mother's protection from when she died, I think Voldemort would have just wiped him out in literally 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's at the very least misrepresented in the movies because it's confusing.
It's so confusing in later.
I can't figure out why the most powerful wizard that's only afraid of Dumbledore can't beat an 11-year-old.
Especially when you see the
defense against the dark arts 1. Like,
yeah,
like bite me, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I do always laugh in the book when, at the end of the first one, when Harry is like, getting ready to go into the room he thinks was Snape when it's Quirrell. And he's like, go back and get Dumbledore, Hermione, send it out. He's like, I'll hold him off for a little bit. And it's like, bro, you're literally 11 years old.
Yeah, you literally took defense against the dark arts 1 and you're going against this powerful what you assume to be this powerful Death Eater, and you think you're going to survive more than 3 seconds.
Yeah, you just had your exams and you couldn't turn your matchbox into a mouse and you think you're going to beat Snape.
Like, come on.
Yeah. You have any other takes plot-wise?
Dumbledore might be the worst headmaster in the history of headmasters.
I mean, at least the worst hiring recruiter of teachers of all time. I mean,
yeah.
The line, no safer place than Hogwarts. Hagrid is drinking Kool-Aid. That is so not true.
Yeah.
There's no more dangerous place than Hogwarts.
Honestly, Voldemort gets in every freaking year. How is that the safest place? Dude, if you're telling me the most powerful wizard is coming to Hogwarts every single year to go after Harry Potter, and he gets in every single year, and there's always some sort of trap. Yeah. After the second time, my kid's going to wherever Cedric Diggory went, or the weird school from somewhere in the Baltic that was like wearing all
Durmstrang.
Dude, like what? Yeah. And then back to this whole like Death Eater thing. Like, if he really was like a Tony Soprano, like it was the most poorly run organization ever. Nobody stepped up. You're telling me that you're taking over the world as these Death Eaters and everything's going to be corrupt, and then the leader goes down and nobody steps in. Like, what kind of poorly run organization is that there's no number 2?
I know.
Like, are you joking?
Yeah, he didn't have a what's the consigliary's name in Sopranos? Did not have one of those. Not that I'm not going to spoil Sopranos then, but
it doesn't make sense. Are you talking about Richard Van Zant's character?
Yeah. He's the consigliere, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for Tony. Yeah. But there's also like, Tony. Johnny Sack and all them.
Yeah.
The other thing, why 11? That's such an odd birthday. You're not becoming a teenager. It's not when you enter double digits. 11. Maybe that was explained and I just don't remember. But rereading this book, I was like, why is 11 so important?
I was thinking that it's around, I don't know the British school system, but I'm thinking it's right near 6th grade. So it's kind of like you've done your base education of like math and reading, and all of that to have a foundation to go to the school where the teachers are not relying on teaching you how to read at Hogwarts. So it's like, okay, you've got your base. Now we can kind of grow that base. You got the essentials down.
Okay.
But it's like, that's my thinking on it. I have no idea if that's correct.
I got a couple more,
Yeah.
I think. How again, back to Dumbledore being the worst headmaster ever. How do you not know that Voldemort's on the back of your Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher's head? You're the most powerful. The minister of the magic defense, whatever, is asking you for advice, but you can't figure out that you're allowing the world's worst wizard of all time
Yeah.
that you trained at Hogwarts to come back on the back of some
Yeah.
guy's head. You can't figure that out. You have no idea what's going on in your own school, and you just
Yeah.
keep disappearing.
Yeah. I also love that Hermione's like, nothing can happen while Dumbledore's here, Harry. Like,
Literally,
as long as
Dumbledore
he's
makes
here, we're
everything.
safe. Literally, Hermione, we were just in the woods, and Voldemort was in the woods and almost killed me. And Dumbledore was here at the school. Like, if the centaurs did not step in, I would have been dead. Like, what are you talking about, Hermione?
Yeah.
Yeah, questionable decisions by Dumbledore.
And he, again, you're telling me you didn't know you or apparently had this great relationship with Lily James Potter, and you didn't think that maybe living with the Dursleys was a bad idea?
Yeah, I get that from
Really,
the
dude. Really.
standpoint of like, based because of the protective charm of where Harry has to grow up, it has to be a relative, and Petunia is his only relative. But man, you couldn't just raise him at Hogwarts. I mean, he would have been dead by 3 years old though if he was at Hogwarts his entire life. He's not making it out of there. Who's going to raise him? Hagrid there? Hagrid couldn't even raise a dragon.
Actually,
Rough
to be
stuff.
fair, Hagrid probably could have raised that dragon. They didn't let him raise that dragon.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I have some kind of like rapid fire scene.
Okay.
Questions.
Okay.
Kind of like a variety.
Do I give context, or am I just like one word answering?
We can give context. Yeah. All right. What is your personal favorite scene of the movie, and does that differ from the book? Not what is the best scene, but what is to you your personal favorite?
Oh man, I wasn't ready for that. I think the Christmas scene cracks me up. There's no reason it should be my favorite scene, but when Ron's wearing that giant sweater with the R that's off centered, and it's like, Harry, you got one too. I'm just dying because Harry's so excited, and it is so ugly, and it is so funny to me.
Yeah,
I actually laughed during that scene, and I love that scene. It's not one of the most important, but it warms the heart, and it's really funny to me.
You want to know what's funny? It's my personal favorite movie scene.
Seriously?
Yeah, book-wise.
Oh, I'm talking about the movie. Yeah, that's my favorite scene in the movie.
In the movie, yeah, same. Book-wise, Diagon Alley is my favorite. Him going to Ollivander's and getting the wand, and just like that, you realize he's getting the same wand as like the core's Voldemort. But the heart of that scene for me is when Hagrid goes to buy him his first ever birthday gift, and it's Hedwig, and he's just like standing outside the shop, so happy with Hedwig showing him. Like, that just makes my heart swell. Like, it's so nice. But
that's a really good pick.
But in the movie, the combo of Christmas, which is magical at Hogwarts, him getting the invisibility cloak and going to the mirror and seeing his parents, it's just like so funny and sweet and like sentimental. And like, it's just one of those moments that makes you just feel so happy for Harry, but also sad for Harry when he's seeing his dead parents in the mirror. It's like a truly amazing scene in the books, in the movie. So I agree. Man, would love to do an Airbnb at Hogwarts at Christmas. Be an incredible time.
Coming to Universal Studios.
Yeah, I know. What do you believe is the most important scene in the movie in regards to the plot?
The most important scene in the movie in regards to the plot,
or like the future plot of the series. Like, what do you think is the most important scene?
I don't know if it's the most important, but I think an underrated scene is when Snape is trying to undo or at least what I'm perceiving,
Yeah.
is undo the curse on the
The counter
broomstick.
curse. Yeah.
He's
It's a good one.
that little bit of foreshadowing of like Snape is actually helping Harry not die,
Yeah.
and then Hermione lights him on fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Like way to go. It, unintentionally worked, but it worked. That's a
Yeah,
really good shout for an important first scene. I like that.
I think the scene goes on underrated, especially if you look at it in the context of only the first movie. It's very underrated. But if you think about the character arc of Snape and how this series goes, that's really important because especially as a rewatch, you see that Snape is protecting Harry.
Yeah,
right from the beginning.
Yeah, that's a really great point because it's so ingrained in us now. But the twist of Snape not being bad and of Quirrell having Voldemort on his head was crazy at the time. Like it was mind blowing, but we don't even think about it these days. So that's a good shout. I would have never thought of that scene, but that is it. I like that one.
Thanks.
I had the end of year combo with Harry and Dumbledore after everything goes down, and I put that because it's the first time that Dumbledore is kind of telling half truths and lying to Harry a little bit in that end of year combo about what's going on and why Voldemort tried to kill him, and Harry's asking all these questions finally, and that was really important because a hallmark of these books, which you don't always get in the movies, is this end of year post game interview with Dumbledore that Harry always does, where they're debriefing everything that had happened. And I think it's the first time you're kind of getting what you think is confirmation of some of these plot elements from Dumbledore. And it's the first time we realize he's withholding a lot. And that becomes very important later on.
Yeah, it's a good one.
What do you think is the most underrated scene in the movie?
I think I'd have to go with my same choice that I had. The Snape
one.
Thing.
Yeah, that's a good one. My most underrated scene, because there's so many good scenes in this movie, but I think the most underrated, especially in the movie, is the troll scene, because that's the gelling of the group of Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And in the movie, they don't have that moment. It's a little hard to do, where in the books, JK writes like, there's some things you can't do without becoming friends, and knocking out a, 8-foot mountain troll is one of them. And it's like, they're now officially like the group,
trauma bonded.
The trio. Yeah. Trauma bonded. Yeah. And that's really important because that is the group we're going to be with through the rest of this series. And I think there's just like so many other iconic scenes in the movie that you don't think of, like the troll in the bathroom scene is one of the biggest. I mean, you probably think of Quirrell running into the Great Hall doing the troll, but next award, or I think that this is the final one. Best Scene Award.
Mm-hmm.
The opening of the movie.
You have like literally this movie scene for scene written out as the nominees. I'm looking at this list. There's 9 of them.
There's pared down. But you only need to expand on the ones that we haven't talked about. Opening scene, unbelievable, like so good. Especially McGonagall's. You were so right that they just like hit all these characters so well in like the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Hagrid arriving at the hut, always iconic. Diagon Alley, the arrival at Hogwarts and the sorting, Snape's first potion lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of Christmas, Miravera said, the chess match, which we opened the podcast with, and the end of year feast. What do you think is the best adapted scene in this movie?
Hagrid arrives at the hut. It was beat for beat, and the pig's tail was hysterical.
Yeah.
And there's good visual acting in that scene, even from a child. And there's some really good monologues in that scene. I think I gotta give it there. It's funny, it's serious, it gives a lot of context to some characters that you wouldn't have if you didn't read the book. I got to give there.
Love it. Yeah, I was torn between that one and the Sorting Hat scene of like the boat ride to Hogwarts, getting sorted, Harry making his first choice of, I'm not going to be friends with Malfoy. I don't want to go to Slytherin. Good stuff. But man, yeah, the Hagrid kicking down the door. I think it's like almost what you think about with this first movie.
Mm-hmm.
The You're a Wizard, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get your best Hagrid impression.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Nice. That was pretty good.
Wasn't it? I thought that was okay, actually.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah.
It was way better than I thought it was going to be right before it came out of my mouth.
Yeah. If you ever have kids, you got to read these stories in character.
You're a wizard, Harry. That was better. That second one was better, I think. I think I could probably do it.
Yeah.
It like
you could do the rest
my
of the
throat apart to do
the
it.
podcast in that voice.
All right.
World building. Did we give plot a score?
No, I gave it a 1 out of 5.
Yeah, 1 out of 5. Yeah.
No, this one I'll give a 5 out of 5. World building though sucked. She didn't do anything.
Nothing.
-2 out of 5. Let's bring this shit down. No, we talked about it a lot. The world building was great. I don't really have anything to add over what we said that I think would add any value. So give the world building and aesthetics a 5 out of 5. And if you have anything to add, let's talk about it. But I don't. So
my question for you is, what set piece did they do the best at? Ooh. And I'll give you Diagon Alley, train ride, Hogwarts.
I am actually going
or you could give it any more specific in Hogwarts. That's fine too.
That's what I was just about to say. I'm going to give a more specific answer. And I think the Great Hall in Hogwarts, masterpiece.
Perfect.
That's my answer.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Hogwarts itself was done very well in all of the aspects, but the Great Hall specifically, where they're spending so much time, was nailed.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, Hogwarts is probably her best creation, and everything there, they just did so on the Great Hall. So good. I mean, floating candles, the sky, they did it all.
Yeah.
Like also just all the kids like actually still dressing like wizards in these first 2 movies. You know, the end of year feast when they're all wearing their little hats and stuff. And it's just so good. Yeah, no, they did a great job with this. I would shout out Stuart Craig. He did the production design for all of these movies.
Oh, nice.
I mean, they just did not miss on like the set locations, and they did such a good job. And it helps that they're building out such a fully fleshed out world from JK. Everything feels like it has depth. Yeah, I'm a 5 out of 5 on world building and aesthetics.
Yeah.
Soundtrack.
I got to be honest. I'm not giving this a perfect. I think you're about to give this a perfect score. I can't. And the reason I can't is that audiobook. I cannot get past.
That's not the movie.
I know. But it's now synonymous to Harry Potter with me, and I can't shake it. And it's driving me nuts that they did this little court jester, kids Game of Thrones knockoff, whatever in there, and they haven't fixed it. So 4 out of 5. It probably would have got a 5 out of 5 because that is like immediately recognizable. It's fantastic in the movies. It's fucking bullshit in the audiobook, and I'm mad about it.
All right. Sure.
Listen, I get it. I know it's ridiculous. It's how I feel. I can't. I've been all day. I've been trying to like get myself around. Can I separate this? And the answer is no, I can't. Fix the audiobook. Just fix it.
Yeah.
You don't have the rights to your own music. Like that's an original whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
no, probably not. It's probably the publisher owns.
So they have rights for it for all of the movies, but not the audiobook.
I mean, Warner Bros. Does not have rights to the audiobook. Definitely not. I think what makes the soundtrack good is obviously there's all the best movies have an instantly iconic theme. Jurassic Park, first one we've ever done. We talked about how amazing it was. That was our best scene. Was the welcome to Jurassic Park, and the music swells in. I think what works so good about Harry Potter is that even the non-main theme are so instantly recognizable as Harry Potter music. It's kind of a little bit not on this scale at all. But when we were talking about Sherlock Holmes and how like you can hear some of the jingles and you know that that's like this is from Sherlock, like the Harry Potter music is such a vibe that you just know, oh, this is from this movie. And there's so many tracks that add so much depth to the soundtrack. John Williams, dude just doesn't miss.
I think what I like about John Williams, we've done a few of his, right? And
Yeah.
when you're watching movies, his soundtrack brings you deeper into the movies. It doesn't take you out to where you're noticing the music.
Mm-hmm.
You recognize that music is playing, I think, subconsciously, but it's always furthering the,
yeah,
I don't want to say enjoyment, but it's furthering your connection to the visual medium in a way that you're not realizing you're listening to this soundtrack. And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. That connection's a great point because you can hear, like, if I hear the Christmas at Hogwarts or the winter theme, like, I can instantly see Harry walking in the snow with Hedwig on his arm. And, like, you know exactly what scene accompanies this piece of music. And you can't separate one without the other. Like, I couldn't watch that scene without hearing it.
Right. But when you're watching that scene, you're not thinking about the music.
You're not thinking about it.
It's a total cohesive moment.
Yeah. He's so good. And he's so good at, like, not making all of his soundtracks sound similar. Like, he's done so many and they all have their own unique vibe to them. Like, Star Wars music sounds so Star Wars. Indiana Jones music sounds very Indiana Jones. And Harry Potter music has that just magical sort of wistful quality to it. The sense of wonder in everyone. Yeah.
I could have used more Dua Lipa though. They should have like redone the music and just thrown some
Could
pop
you imagine
in
this with pop music?
It would be so bad.
Yeah.
Especially for the pop music at the time. It would have been like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we would get
Janet
into
Jackson.
Creed and Nickelback. Like, imagine if Creed headlined the like Goblet of Fire Yule Ball.
No, you gotta. Creed's headlining the feast after he defeats Voldemort in the first one. Can you take me high?
Yeah.
Or during the chess scene, you get My Sacrifice. My sacrifice.
Like swells as Ron. No, you can't. Who's doing the halftime show at the Quidditch World Cup?
Ooh, in 1999 or whatever?
Yeah, I guess in actual timeline, the Quidditch World Cup would have been like 1994, 1995.
Okay, hang on. Give me a second. I'm going to Google this.
Maybe like Pearl Jam?
Who is the biggest musical act of 1995? TLC, Boyz II Men, Hootie and the Blowfish, Madonna, Blessed Union of Souls.
Could you imagine Hootie and the Blowfish doing the halftime show?
Mariah Carey, Coolio. I could see like Michael Jackson was still huge.
Yeah.
Oasis was that's when Oasis was together.
In the UK.
Probably Oasis. Because of that.
Probably getting in a massive fight too during the Quidditch World Cup.
Maybe
That'd
Madonna.
be incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oasis is a good shout. Yeah. They're doing the halftime show. Legacy standalone appeal. Before you give your score, what is the most iconic line from this first movie for you?
Not me. Not Hermione. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a wizard, Harry. Those are a couple good.
Yeah. Yeah. That one has.
Okay. You can say that line as ridiculous as you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your British accent can be as bad as you want. Everybody knows what it is, and it's hysterical.
Yeah. No, You're a Wizard, Harry was pre the takeoff of the not me, not Hermione line. Probably one of the biggest. I think the one that also had a lot of heat in the early 2000s was the I'm going to bed before either of you come up with another clever idea to get us killed or worse, expelled. And Ron's
She really needs to get her priorities in order.
yeah, the classic Ron. Uh, the 8 does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Dumbledore just spitting at 1 a.m. in the side.
Yeah.
Like, how long do you think he had that one up his sleeve?
He's been sitting on it for 11 years.
Yes, he's like, I'm going to wait until this 11-year-old boy and I'm just going to rock his world. Yeah, so many good ones. Also, the classic, I'm not going home. Not really. Hermione's probably like, okay, Dick, I didn't mean, this wasn't your home. I was just saying it feels weird that the year's over. She's got to be all pedantic. How do you feel about the legacy of this movie?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. This is an interesting one. And I know you mentioned JK and her problematic takes earlier, but I genuinely think that has hurt the legacy of Harry Potter, especially for Gen Z and younger. To be honest with you, I think that that's probably a fact. I don't have any numbers to support that right now, but I do think it hurts the legacy, which is really unfortunate because in a book that's so about being tolerant of different people and different views, it just sucks that she feels that way.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I gotta knock some points off legacy for that. But I mean, it's one of the highest grossing movies of all time, and or at least the series is one of the highest grossing group of films. It's one of the most, you said the most successful book series of all time in terms of sales. I mean, it's crazy. Those numbers are crazy. So
yeah,
I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 on legacy and standalone appeal.
That's blasphemous, but that's okay. This is an easy 5 out of 5. It's the biggest book franchise ever, but we're not talking about the book with the legacy standalone. I think what helps is all of the current cast have distanced themselves and come out against J.K. Rowling and not agreeing with her views. I also don't think anyone holds that against this first movie and holds that against kind of the movie series. I think people are more questioning her legacy and newer things she puts out. But this movie changed the literary world and the adaptation world and is so ingrained in our culture that we're now getting a TV show reboot on HBO. It's still being memed today, even more so. And you have people who, when people like Maggie Smith pass away, are like deeply upset that we're losing these huge pieces of our childhood. So I don't think that the book or the movie industry will ever be the same. And I think many fans have separated the creator from something that means a lot to their childhood. So this is an absolute 5 out of 5 for me in my first ever.
You said the movie changed the literary world. I would almost argue that the book changed the literary world and the movie changed how we think about it. Mm-hmm. Because like outside of the movie, I think that genuinely, I think that book changed everything.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? Like, and to what you said, you're probably right that the movie helped with that. But I don't even know that it needed the movie to have changed everything because of the book, like how successful that book was, and like the global phenomenon that was the release of this book, like almost immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I'm a ride or die book guy. We haven't touched on it, but like, I love all of the movies. They're kind of like, pizza to me, and I like different variations of any pizza. But I have a lot of issues as an adaptation for some of these later movies. Yeah. I love Goblet of Fire, but I think as a book adaptation, it's blasphemous. And I was pissed as a kid. I was like, this is awful. Like, this is not even close. But this first one did amazing. And when I say where it changed the literary world, I don't think we have Lionsgate begging Suzanne Collins to write another book so they can make another movie and make more money if something like this first movie doesn't happen.
That's
So
a
I think
really
in
good
that
point.
way, it changed the YA landscape
That's a really good
of
point.
of the dynamics. But I agree. The book led the charge. No doubt. You're right on that.
Yeah, it's fair. And that wasn't me trying to knock like what you were saying. I was
Yeah.
just curious. I just thought
Yeah.
it was an interesting point. We should build on it.
Who won the movie for you?
Mm.
I'm going to ask you for two things here. A in-character winner, like who wins the Sorcerer's Stone?
Mm.
And then then you can give like an actor, meta one if you want.
What do you mean by the first one that you're looking for? Like
Does Harry Potter, win Sorcerer? Like who do you think that this story, I mean, obviously it's about Harry, but who do you think has like the best book here or the best movie here as a character, not as like, I think Daniel Radcliffe won Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Like, no, I think Snape won it because, you found he had the most important scene and the most underrated scene or something like that.
I actually think that's my answer. I think you just I really am trying to separate my first watch of this versus what we know now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really easy 25 years later to look back and be like, yeah, that scene is so important for this reason because I have full context. Mm-hmm. Because, in 2001, we were 10 and I did not pick up on that. And I would not have put that together and I would not have been thinking about that. So it's really difficult, but I do feel that Professor Snape's character had way more to it than we thought. And upon a reread and a rewatch, it was completely elevated to me in a way that it hadn't been before I did this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that, I don't know if that's fair because it's not an initial read. It's not an initial reaction. It's my first time audiobook, but I had read the book. Yeah. I've seen the movie multiple times. I know how it ends. I know the character arc. I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know if it's completely fair, but that's my answer.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, the groundwork laid for Snape and Dumbledore in this one pays off so amazingly by book 7.
Dumbledore's another good one.
Where they're not what they seem to be in reverse ways. Snape, while still maybe a bad person, was doing, in some ways, the right thing from a kind of global standpoint in the series, where Dumbledore seems like a really good, amazing, grandfatherly person, but actually is really gray when you get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And you have scenes where Harry asks him what he sees in the mirror and he says a pair of socks. And it's like, no, actually what I'm seeing is my sister alive who got killed by Grindelwald because we were thirsting over power and this all went wrong. Like you have the depth to all of this on both sides. So yeah, Snape's a great shout. I mean, he's maybe the most fleshed out character in this entire series.
Yeah.
Hagrid wins this first one for me.
I was between them, but to what you said, I think Robbie wins. Like I was going to pick Hagrid for my second answer.
Yeah. As the meta.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so good.
If we're looking at it in the context of the first movie only, it's Robbie and Hagrid. For the second one, for second answer for me, Snape as the character for the answer.
Yeah, Robbie's just so good. I mean, and Hagrid isn't just so much of this movie. He is trusted to pick up Harry at the destroyed house where his parents are murdered, bring him to the Dursleys. Dumbledore trusts him to go fetch him when the letters aren't arriving and introduce him to the wizarding world. He buys him Hedwig. He invites him for tea just to ask how his classes are going. He's just like, Hagrid can really bother me in later books when he's doing like all his like Grop brother stuff. And I'm like, Hagrid, like you're just hurting yourself here. But in this first one, man, he is just the heartbeat for me. So I really like him. My meta answer would have been Chris Columbus. I mean, he
founded America.
He found America. How do you overstate that?
Speaking of, problematic sentences.
Yeah. Like we would not be having this podcast today if it weren't for him in 1492 sailing the ocean blue.
That is the only reason I ever remember that date, by the way.
Yeah, I know. But man, he did such a great job of getting these movies off on the right track.
Yeah, he did.
Making them so faithful. Did. Just killed it. So this ends the 47.5 out of 50. Winners. Casting. We gave it the Robbie one there. Scene. You gave it to
the Hagrid
arriving
to the hut.
Yeah. And then who won the movie award? Yeah, Snape and Hagrid kind of won it here with their more meta answers.
And it's interesting to me, and I'm sure we're going to do some of the other books, if not all of the other books at some point, right? I feel like from the adult characters, each movie has a different adult that gets that moment. I think you come back to Snape at one point, but
6-1.
I really like that.
Yeah. No. Yeah, me too. The only thing that really this movie, we can move towards wrapping up here, misses a little bit on the Snape with me is they really underplay like the James Potter Snape dynamic in the movies as opposed to the books, where no one tells Harry in this movie really that like the true depth of, James saving quote unquote Snape, and that's why Snape hates him. So they underplay that a little bit, but yeah, Snape is critical in especially book 3, especially in book 6. He's a big factor. But you're right. Each adult kind of gets their book, and Hagrid is, this one. And it's just so endearing, like the big lovable guy. Anything else you got to say on Harry Potter?
No.
We can wrap it up.
Let's do it.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Next episode, tackling A Haunting in Venice, 2023 adaptation of the Agatha Christie novel Halloween Party. Continuing spooky season here. If you have any thoughts or questions and you want to reach out to us, you can do that by email, rewatchplaypod@gmail.com, or Instagram at rewatchplaypodcast. As always, if you have suggestions for future stories you would like to see, let us know. You can find us on all your major platforms, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review 5 stars only, as those things help more people find the show. Anything less than 5 stars, what are we doing to them? Locking them in with Fluffy, shipping them off to the Forbidden Forest like Dumbledore?
I like to end with Fluffy. It seems an appropriate ending.
Yeah, it does. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks, Nick, for joining me. Remember, it's no safer place than Hogwarts.
Harry, it's you that has to go on. I know it. Not me, not Hermione, you.